Jason Munson here with PelletStovePro.com and PelletStovePro.net, your source for pellet stove help and for pellet stove parts, covering what to look for in buying a used pellet stove. First off, there's only a couple brands that I recommend, and that is Austroflum, Breckwell, Quadrifire, Whitfield, and Lopi. Those are the brands right now, at least, that you can still get parts for. So there's nothing worse than buying a pellet stove and then having it break and you not being able to get parts for it. But those brands you can still get parts for. When you look at the stove, a couple things you want to ask, and that is, when was the last time it has been cleaned? And was it cleaned by a professional or did they do it themselves? And then how did they clean it? I covered in another blog on how you should clean a pellet stove. But that's a real important thing, because if it hadn't been cleaned out properly, then you're going to need to clean it for it to work well. That's the number one thing to check. Then you want to go ahead and fire it up and run it and see how does it run, whether it's in their house or out in front of the house or something. You want to make sure that everything's running and working properly. Ask about replacement parts. What were the things that have been replaced recently? How long ago has it been? For the auger motor, the convection fan, and the combustion blower. Those are great things to ask about. When you run it, you want to go ahead, run it for a good for a good 20 minutes. And make sure that it runs through its startup cycle, which is usually about 12 to 15 minutes on any pellet stove, and then also turn it off and make sure that it shuts down completely, that all the motors and everything turns off. It has a cool down cycle as well. As far as price goes, I wouldn't pay more than $500 for any pellet stove out there. And in fact, a lot of times you can get them for free. I got my pellet stove for free, and it's one of the top of the line pellet stoves. And yes, it needed about $300 or $400 worth of work on it, but now I've had it for 6 or 7 years, and it's fantastic. So I'm a big fan of buying used pellet stoves and repairing them. I've got a lot of blog articles on how to fix them, and I also have a lot of parts on both of my websites. So if you need any help, PelletStovePro.com or PelletStovePro.net.